Hi, I'm Al Goff.
And I'm Miles Miller.
Hi, this is John Schneider.
Hi, it's John Glover.
This is Justin Hartley.
This is Steve the Knight.
This is Aaron Ashmore.
This is Cassidy Freeman, and you are listening to Starkville.
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 Starkville, House of L.
Starkville, House of L.
Starkville, House of L.
The podcast.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the House of L. This is our episode for the Smallville Season 3 episodes, plural, Talisman and Forsaken. I'm Derek.
I'm Tucker.
Hey Tucker, how are you, buddy?
Well, just, I'm on break for another 2 weeks, so I'm really good.
Using it nicely. Glad you're here. Longtime listeners will, of course, know Tucker is the other half of the show, the reason it started 20 years ago, as we've talked about a lot. Now going into our 21st year here at the end of 2025, which is crazy, and wrapping up season 3, which at one time I feel like was your favorite season. Is that still? Yeah. Is that still the case?
Yeah. So season 3 was the first one that I watched from the beginning, like on television when it premiered each episode. I didn't get really into the show until the summer before that.
Yeah. And let's see, season 3 was also, I think you left on a road trip, and I remember recording a bunch of episodes for you too, for when you came back. I definitely have a very vivid memory of watching Talisman with you live. I just remember conversations we had. We were excited about John Schneider directed this episode. It was the first time a cast member had directed for the series. Forsaken, I'm sure we watched together, but I just don't even remember. Even watching it now for recording today, I was like, I remember some of this. I remember Pete leaving.
So I'm thinking that would be May of 2004.
Yeah.
I would have been back home-ish. I think that would have been right before I started going to state.
Yeah. I think you came back between Shattered and Asylum.
Sounds
maybe.
About right.
Yeah, it's,
January, mid-January.
21 year ago memory, to the best of my ability. So I'm excited to talk about these with you, though, because like I said, I do remember, obviously, during this time period, we were watching them all together. This getting toward the end of this season, going into season 4 and season 5, we were definitely all in the same room. Moving forward, watching these. Crazy to be talking about the end of this. 2026 going to be starting off with season 4 in a big way. I'm excited to tell you more about that, guys, when we get there here in the next few weeks. I'm just going to get through the holidays and try to close this one out. Craig Byrne will be joining me from Krypton Site. Will be joining me for the season finale, Covenant, and should have that for you before New Year's Day. Also, if you watched Talkville and you saw this week's episode, you might have seen me on Talkville, because I showed up for the season 7 finale, Arctic, and was honored to be on the show. I hope it's not their last. They've always kind of been tongue-in-cheek on whether or not they'll continue after Rosenbaum departed the series, and of course that was his final regular appearance on the show with Arctic before he left at the end of season 7. So it was a big episode for them, and I was cool that they asked me to be on. I really was very surreal in so many ways to be on a podcast. After hosting these conventions and everything, being up with them was one thing, but then sitting there on a podcast with them was totally different and wild.
Yeah. And so where does Tom live in relation to Michael and LA?
I think Northern California. Don't hold me to that. I honestly can't remember. He's told me before, but that went in one ear out the other. I know, of course, Michael lives in Hollywood, in the hills, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure on Tom, but they get together sometimes and in person for big episodes. I kind of thought they would for this one, but they were separated. But it was neat to be on with the both of them, and of course, I've gotten to know and love Ryan dearly over the past couple of years. He's awesome, and I appreciated the three of them having me on. That was that was neat. That's something I'll cherish for a long time. So if you haven't seen it yet, check out Talkville from this past Wednesday for the season 7 finale of Arctic. I really hope they return for seasons 8, 9, and 10. I know there's a litany of reasons why they could not return. I get those, but I also think that it would be fascinating to watch them talk.
Well, and it would also be for in many instances just a kind of sort of flipping the script a little bit. I think that with Michael not having been there for that, it would be more of him kind of being able to do a more interview style rather than I remember this, I remember that.
Right. And you're at that point too in the series when Tom took on the producer and then the executive producer role by season 10. So I feel like his stories and his behind the scenes of where the show was at that point would just be invaluable. Stuff we've never really gotten to hear before.
Yeah.
And I would love that. So just from those two standpoints, from knowing Michael has no clue, like he didn't even know, we were talking about it on the episode, he doesn't know that Lex kind of stayed a presence there for a little while. And he was not even aware of that. So Tom and I were joking, you probably hate it. You probably won't love the Darth Lex storyline, but
Right.
I still think it'd be cool to hear them talk about it. And obviously Erica has become a favorite guest on the podcast. Everybody loves having her on. I think her episodes are fantastic, and she becomes so much more of a prominent cast member in these final 3 seasons that having her on more, I think, would be really rewarding as well to her, to hear her and Tom tell stories, tell Michael stuff he doesn't know. So, and then you've got Ryan, who's not seen anything past season 7 too. So it's just kind of it's kind of a whole new ball game. To me, it's like, yeah, if you're wanting more listenership and you're wanting patrons and everything, what better way to do it than give them this, because you can go to conventions or watch those videos on YouTube all day long of them kind of answering the same questions about the show, but you're in a time period now where it's kind of uncharted territory. So
Right.
I think
Exactly.
I think it'd be huge. We also got the Supergirl trailer here in the last few days, which I'm very excited about, from director Craig Gillespie and Millie Alcock taking on the role of Kara. If you've not read Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, the comic by Tom King, I implore you to get a copy. We just did a post, I think Tim did, on TikTok, of like a cover gallery. There's this phenomenal art from that series, and if you're not picking up these DC Comics compact editions that they're putting out, I think you really should. Under $10, you get that whole book in a smaller format that you can travel with or carry with you on the go. I think that's great, and that's going to come out January 6th. So if you don't want the big traditional deluxe edition hardback or even the floppy trade, that's a great way to read that. And I think you'll definitely kind of want to, especially if you are not familiar with the story at all, after seeing that trailer. So much of the film is going to take its heart from that story. There's obviously going to be some changes. Jason Momoa as Lobo, he's not in the book. So that's something new, but you saw the trailer. What did you think?
Well, yeah. So I think I was left with so many more questions because I have not actually read the Woman of Tomorrow. So
Yeah.
I guess I'll be one of the ones picking
There you go.
the release there. However, even the footage that they showed provided a whole different insight into, I think, the approach that they're taking for Kara in this iteration. She seems much more kind of dealing with loss, and in that kind of self-destructive way that one might do, but at the same time, there's bits and pieces even that you can see in the trailer of things that she's attempting to do, really just to kind of carve her own path. And I think that sort of dynamic was always a more interesting look at the character of Supergirl to me than it was the just following around Superman doing whatever he says to do.
Right, and I think that was one of my chief complaints, with the CW series, which I still love, but it was she was just very much a female Clark.
Mhm.
The way they kind of portrayed her on that, and I think Melissa did a great job, and I
Oh, yeah.
did love that show, but it was not different enough for me to be as captivating as I think this could be. As a kid, I wore, I wore that VHS Helen Slater 1984 tape out. And I loved that movie. And I think, that was something that was still kind of in line with the refilms, but not really. There's that one scene of her looking at the poster of him in her dorm room with the Williams theme, but that's all we really get other than Mark McClure cameoing in the film as Jimmy. But this seems so, and you're right when you're talking about the trauma that she's dealing with so much. She's very lost and wayward, and there's context clues being what they are. And that shot when Crypto's taking a leak on the newspaper, there's the big front page spread about Superman stopping, a nuclear whatever. And if you pause it, there's a tiny little picture of Supergirl in the bottom right hand corner, and it's the headline. The tiny headline says "Supergirl saves kittens." So like it's very much she's got this. She was sent here to protect her cousin, who by the time she got here, she didn't need to anymore, and she's lost so much.
And it looks to me like they're sort of mixing those two ideas. You mentioned the Salkin movie. She left Argo City. I don't know, going after what was it? The
Megahedron.
Megahedron.
Megahedron, yeah.
And so she wasn't really supposed to be on Earth. And then there have been instances where she's gone to, to watch over. To watch over Superman, time dilation or whatever they come up with. I hate to make predictions. I do, but I'm wondering if whatever attempt Argo City makes to save itself doesn't last as long as they might hope.
Yeah.
Or
yeah.
Are we thinking a tie-in to if there's a Brainiac situation?
You saw that bubble pop up during this direction. I'm really excited we are getting the flashbacks. We are getting to see this version of Krypton, and we're going to see Zor-El and Allura. David Krumholtz is playing Zor-El. I'm really excited about that. I love him. But just from the standpoint of where we kind of left things in Superman as far as Krypton goes, with the new kind of version or classification of Jor-El and Lara and that whole whammy that happened. I'm excited to see what this version looks like. Spoilers being what they are, I will say that the line that Ruthie says in the trailer about there not being any Kryptonians left, and what was it like to lose everything. She's like, Krypton, it's a line straight from the comic. Krypton didn't die in a day. The gods aren't that kind. They are at a funeral. I will say that much in the scene where they're walking before the destruction happens. I'm excited to find out more why she's here, how she got here. Other small changes they've made. I know we talked about like Lobo, Krim, the Yellow Hills, who's the villain. He looks very different than he does in the comic, and I don't know why they've changed him up so much. Crypto is in the book. Things do not end well for Crypto in the book, and I'm not going to forgive anybody involved with this production if those things transfer to the screen. I know there's one shot of her kneeling down with him, and he looks not well. So if that's what they're doing there, it's gonna be bad. I think about the test screening for Superman. They took out a scene where Ultraman punched Crypto in the face because audiences were so upset by it. And I'm like, well, if you thought that was bad, things get worse in Woman of Tomorrow. So hopefully that is not what's going to happen on screen. I can only assume. But I think it's going to deepen the well of the DCU. There's a lot of really good it's very much a cosmic adventure of them planet hopping in the story, but it's also, I mean, it's just got so much heart and so well done. And I think that we didn't get to see a lot of the art transfer from panel to screen. And there's a couple things I was like, yeah, that looks like so and so, this page or that page, but it's just some incredible splash pages and stuff that they did in that story that I hope they're able to. When they announced they were doing this, I was like, I don't know how they're going to make that happen on screen, but I am hopeful and excited. We're not far away from June already, which is crazy to believe. Noticed last night, today is a year ago today, the Superman trailer dropped.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's been a full year since that happened, which is wild. Just wild.
We're going back to Cleveland.
Let's go back to Cleveland. Let's talk about Talisman up first, which is the 20th episode of season 3. Aired May 5th, 2004, written by Kenneth Miller and directed by John Schneider, as we talked about a moment ago. What is your memory of Talisman? Do you have any kind of recollection of that?
I do. As I was thinking back, I remember when we were watching it. At least for me, I don't know if you were like this, but I remember when we were watching it, I thought it was so interesting how deeply they were delving into this brand new mythology of in season 3, the Kryptonians had been coming to Earth for thousands of years, and this was their kind of, they would touch on it every once in a while, and they were really pushing hard. But I don't think that when we were watching it originally, I felt like they were creating a mythology. I thought, oh, that's an interesting way of looking at it. I don't know, but I think with time, I understand, needing to come up with something fresh to a story that is, quite frankly, or part of the story which is so glossed over in almost every other aspect. It's kind of like one of those deals where, the story of Superman, where he comes from, how he got here, and then him kind of becoming, the legendary hero, and then you don't have this bit in the middle. And so what do? You have Warner Brothers hands you a whole bunch of money, and here you go.
It's kind of like Jesus' missing years.
I didn't want to say it.
Yeah, I know what you.
I didn't want to
not say it.
But
it's interesting to me too, because I did love the whole Kiwatche storyline, going back to Skinwalkers in season 2, and then we get a little bit more into it, like you were talking about with season 3. I know with Relic and some of these episodes where we were so heavy into the caves, and then watching this one, I'm like, oh, this is just like, this one's all in on Kiwatche.
Yes.
And then that's pretty much it. We don't ever really revisit the whole Kiwatche thing ever again. There's references to it, but there's never really, by the time the witches come around and the stones have been hidden next season, this was all kind of just put by the wayside.
No, it switches from, several thousand-year-old Native American culture to somehow the French are involved.
Yeah, 17th century witches, and yeah, it definitely took a turn, and but I do remember how engrossed we were in this because of, while it wasn't the mythology, of course, we were used to, like you're touching on, we know Clark, and then we know Superman in this middle, but anything that revolved around, and I guess you could say this for Veritas too, when we get to that point in season 7 and beyond, even though that's more of a retcon, but this is anything that was devoted to the heralding of Kal-El, kind of, and how what his importance was going to be. It was something I always ate up on the show, and I thought that I thought the Kiwatche, the Naman and Sagith thing was really interesting at the time, and I don't know why I've never really considered it before until watching today, today, and I was like, yeah, that was pretty much it. Like, they kind of put a cap on it with this, or not even I don't know if they ever meant to. Like, I don't know if it would have behooved them to dive more into that in season 4 and use that as the catalyst for the stones and the Fortress of Solitude and all of that, or if the witch thing was the way to go. I look back more fondly on season 4 now than I did at
For
the
sure.
time. But I do think it was, and I don't know how much of that had to do with Christopher Reeve's death. Also, because I know, the plan was to make him more involved for season 4, and then obviously that couldn't happen. So I don't know how much things changed behind the scenes as a result of that. But I do think it would have been, from my point of view, a little more interesting to dive more into the Kiwatche thing for season 4. And if you feel the same way or not, I don't know.
I think so. I mean, I'm going to always qualify that with it depends on how they approach it. I'm always one of those people who likes the this another reason why season 3 is one of my favorites. I'm one of those folks who likes the far back flashback, sort of put the same actors playing different characters, sort of like how they did in Memoria, but even farther back. And it's not necessarily I don't know, I think it would have been interesting to see an episode where you actually got to see whoever the first Kryptonian was to come to these people.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Even if it was like for 5 minutes flashback, not even 5 minutes, like a couple minutes flashback when they're telling this story and you see this man come from the stars, kind of thing. It's me. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't disagree. I watching when we got to Relic back earlier this season, the 50th episode, and watching it again, I was like, this was way more convoluted than I remember. With Jor-El's whole trial of coming to Earth and the Lana's aunt, the Louise thing, and obviously them playing those versions, like you were talking about, those versions of those characters in the flashback. But it also, I think it could have, yes, to your point, bringing in the first Kryptonian or somebody who appeared to the Native Americans, that where this whole oral history came from that was passed down, and seen more of that, I would have appreciated, because there were so many drawings in the Kiwatche Caves, and we only get to like 3 of them before all is said and done, discussing, and then obviously the key in the wall and all that. So and then this dagger, which never gets mentioned before, and then all of a sudden it exists in the Starblade. And then I think for me, one of the most infamous parts of the whole episode is Lex and Lionel both reaching. Obviously, that's something that came into the credits and everything later, but them both reaching, and you don't see which one touched it first, really, so it disappears.
Well, and there was I have, as I said, I haven't seen this one in quite a while. I had forgotten that was a thing that they tended to do. They worked in this sort of prophecy angle in this part of the series, but the kind of back and forth ultimate villain of the show between Lex and Lionel was always sort of up in the air, and it really it went season by season, sometimes episode by episode, who was kind of jockeying for the top position. But it was very interesting to me that I think that they have, of course, they always have the debrief at the farm at the end of the episodes of, well, how do you feel about this?
Yeah, what's the lesson?
How do you see this?
Yeah.
I always thought it was interesting that far more than Lionel, Jonathan and Martha sort of advocate for Lex being the villain.
Absolutely.
It's like, oh, wait a second. The guy who murdered his parents is not the villain of the story?
Maybe you should consider that it's your best friend. I do, and it makes the whole waveform of Lex and Lionel interesting, because before when I was on doing the Talkville, which was recorded several weeks ago, but it's the last episode of Smallville I watched before these two, was Arctic. So the whole ending with Lex and Clark talking about how, have we ever considered that Sagith is actually the hero, and like you could put the the B-roll of Arctic of them in the fortress over this whole monologue and line it up perfectly. So I do appreciate that from that point of view. But yes, you're right. It was very much all in on the whole. Maybe it's Lex. If we consider that it's Lex this whole time. And it's all over Clark's face too, and he even says it there at the end that maybe we should consider it's Sagith as the hero and not Naaman, whatever you want to say it, Newman. One of my favorite things from this episode has become just an inside joke, though, almost. The real estate agent that is showing the Talon off because Lex has put the Talon up for sale because Lana's going to Paris. We'll talk more about that in a minute. And she wants him to buy her out, but he has no interest in, owning the coffee shop solo, so he's going to sell it, which, much to her chagrin. She doesn't want to see it go because she's a spoiled brat. But the real estate agent, who doesn't even have a name, she's listed in the credits as real estate agent, played by Terrell Rothery. The real estate agent has a trading card in the Smallville deck. And so all the other ones have autograph cards, it's Tom Welling, Michael Rosenbaum, and all their signature. And so this woman has a trading card. I'm going to put it up here on the video. And it just says real estate agent.
Is the photo
yeah,
the lean back,
Goldwell Banker.
Yeah.
You can't beat us. Our prices. I just always thought that was funny. So Schneider directed this episode, as we talked about, and this was something that I feel like in my time of when Graham and I were doing work with him, that this episode got talked about a whole lot. If you remember the Talisman episode of Talkville, when John was on, he got into detail on a scene that he shot for the episode that he feels like is the reason that he never got asked to, or as he called it, fired from directing ever again. And John's directed before this, obviously directed episodes of, I think if memory serves, he directed the series finale of Dukes of Hazzard. It wasn't supposed to be the series finale. Maybe he's got a point. Maybe it's now that I think about it, maybe we've touched on something here. But there's this scene that he talks about with Lex and Lionel, which is kind of like you were talking about the barn scene. Just what's the lesson here of Lex and Lionel in Lex's office? Lionel is up in the loft, which I always loved when they shot stuff up there because it happened so rarely, and I just. That was one of the nicest looking sets to me. It was so well done on the whole show. Just Lex's office in general, utilizing that loft. I feel like they never gave it its full potential of what it could be. But Lionel is up there talking to Lex. Lex is underneath. They're not looking at each other. Lionel, Glover and Rosenbaum were not on set at the same time, so he shot it this way of
trickery.
Of Dad upstairs and them discussing who is Sagith, and the dagger missing. And I hadn't been with Schneider for long when he was like, I got the scene, and pulled out a VHS copy and was like, let's watch it. So it's something I've treasured for a long time. I'm going to actually put if you're listening to the audio of this episode, and can put the audio here. If you're watching on YouTube, you can check out the video now.
Dad, glad to see you're feeling better.
Why? Why did you have to interfere, Lex?
It's not exactly the thanks I was expecting.
I had the star blade in my hand. Then you grabbed it, and I watched it disintegrate.
What are you saying? Don't tell me you really believe I'm this Sagith. You touched it too, Dad, and when it comes to Bearers of Darkness, you practically own the franchise.
The prophecy is not about who Sagith is now. It's about what he is to become in the future.
Well, I guess I have you to thank for that.
What, because I'm your father? Every despot and conqueror and tyrant has got parents. You cannot lay the blame on me for all your woes.
My future won't be foretold by a talisman.
No, of course not. But we'd be foolish just to ignore it, wouldn't we? Lex!
You actually believe I'm capable of that kind of evil?
Oh, Lex, please, good and evil aren't absolutes. It's all a matter of interpretation. You don't forget, history is written by the winners. Lex? Lex!
I really like that scene. I don't know. You had never seen that? I feel like I'd showed you that before, but maybe not. So you were watching, and what's kind of your takeaway from that?
I thought, quite frankly, and I mean that seemed like a kind of David Mamet-esque sort of two-hander in a very serious play, rather than as part of a television series, which I mean as a compliment. It's you and I had talked that it didn't feel like it moved the plot of the episode forward, but it did sort of dig deep into the same thing that ultimately Jonathan and Martha would address with Clark in just sort of a different way.
Right.
But no, I'm going to go back and watch it again.
I think it's a good scene. I don't know that it, like you said, as far as advancing things go, I don't know that it works with the Kent Farm scene.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that the two work in tandem with each other. It kind of needed to be one or the other. And for the benefit of the hero, I think that the scene with the Jonathan and Martha is more important. But to me, I love it. Schneider says, like I said, that this is the reason he was never asked to direct again. I don't know why. Kind of hypothesized maybe it took all day. It was an all-day shoot for a minute and a half scene. Or
well, now that you're telling me that they weren't even there at the same time,
right?
Being in the same place at the same time makes it go a little faster. But you
Absolutely.
have to do multiples, like however many angles you see, meaning cutting back and forth, meaning different camera play, however many. Go ahead and multiply that by 2 because you had to do one for each one. Yeah,
Right.
It's a lot of film.
Yeah,
and that was on film back then. It wasn't digital.
Film, baby. Yeah, that was prior to season 8. So I've looked back on it fondly. There's other stuff that Schneider showed me that I wish I still had copies of. There's alternate takes from Reckoning of Jonathan's death and some other things, but I've held on to this over the years. I was talking to John about it in Chicago at Salute to Smallville, and he was like, I don't even have a copy of that anymore. So I'm happy to have it. But there is also a deleted scene that is on the season 3 DVD that I've always, the episode just kind of is there's a hole in the episode because Lana goes to Luther Mansion to confront Lex about selling the Talon, and it's clear that that Lex's office is being set up for an event that never happens in the episode. And then Jonathan and Martha come home and find, Clark stabbed later on. So what actually has happened is it's Clark's birthday party, is surprise birthday party is happening at Luther Mansion.
And just nobody mentioned it, or they deleted it.
Nobody ever mentions it.
Okay.
Martha and Jonathan are there in the deleted scene. They're coming back from the party to the house when they find Clark. Clark misses it completely because obviously he's bleeding out.
Bleeding, yes.
And that's what's being set up for Luther Mansion. So that you never actually see it. So I just always thought that was interesting.
Laying there, happy birthday to me.
It's like little Lex when nobody showed up for his party. This episode also has one of my favorite lines from the whole series, especially one of Jonathan's lines. It's you could, talking about destiny there at the end, and you could be the world's greatest hero or its most mild-mannered citizen.
Both?
Or both. Both is good. But so I always really liked that as well. Other things from this episode, I'm trying to think. Obviously, you've got the B plot we touched on with Lana leaving, and the Talon, and then also Pete has been sleeping at the Torch office at school because his parents are going through a divorce and mom's leaving.
I mean, they must not either lock the doors or everybody in town has a key, because the very next episode, Lionel just shows up in the middle of the night. Anyway, I get. I mean, it would have been easier, I think, if they had made Smallville High like a boarding school, so it kind of made sense that everybody was there in the middle of the night.
Well, at least
But a
they have
regular public high school?
At least they have bedrooms there. Yeah, I mean, we went to I don't know. Would you think our high school was probably equivalency to this school, or do you think Smallville was probably a little smaller? Maybe population size, we were about the same as Smallville.
Yeah, but our school so maybe not in. It's probably it's a good sized high school. However, so the school that I'm currently at has about the same student population as when you and I were in high school.
Okay.
But the size of the campus is a fifth of the size that we were on. So it was a bigger school because everything was so spread out. But in terms of, it's interesting. I hadn't thought about it, but I think we did take a lot of liberty on that campus after hours that
we did.
Others
that
didn't.
was kind of where I was leading into,
Yeah.
but it was also because we knew how to take a lot of liberty with that campus after hours. So maybe that's the
It
same.
was forgiveness rather than permission. That was
Absolutely.
our approach.
And we made it out. Okay, I guess. But yeah, I was kind of equating that when watching this, because you're right. It's always like, oh, they're up there in the middle of the night, and there's a billionaire there in the middle of the night, and it's just odd, and Pete's sleeping there. But I mean, one would assume Chloe had keys because I can remember people having keys that shouldn't have had keys.
Sure.
To areas when we were in high school.
Sure.
So
This whole discussion, this is why I liked the new sheriff that came in season 3. Because she's not been sort of was indoctrinated into how this weird town works.
It's not just the way it's always been.
Let me
She's
back
just
up.
calling
Wait a
stuff out
second.
left and right. Yeah. Mr. Kemp.
Kemp, why do you have a key to the school?
Love Sheriff Adams. It is kind of sad to me, though, in rewatching, because I remember how much I did enjoy this episode. It's kind of like, we got into this whole Namansgi thing and really drove it home with this one, and then just kind of let it go.
Do you feel like they kind of saw the writing on the wall and were just like, let's have one more episode and kind of put this thing to bed?
Maybe. Again, I don't know if an original plan was to kind of go. I know. Do you remember how much we used to spend time on Krypton site?
Mm-hmm.
The summer between season 3 and season 4, there was a pop up one day that Craig posted where the premiere season 4 premiere was going to introduce the Seers, and they were like this cloaked cult that worshipped Kal-El. That worship the Kryptonians, and that's kind of what eventually Veritas, they turned that into. It left as quickly as it came on the spoiler page. I can remember talking to Craig about it back in the day. He vaguely remembers it as well, but it was, I think it was kind of the direction they were going to go before they landed on the witch storyline.
So I never asked this. I'm going to pause you. Statute of limitations is gone. It's bound to be up by now.
Mm-hmm.
Were his sources? That man had an incredible amount of access.
He had good access. To the point that I don't even know who some of them were. I know he was always in good communication with Al.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the day, but I don't know who all at Warner Brothers. I don't know that I've ever even asked him who all he talked to. But yes, he was tapped in. That's for sure.
If you remember, and I'm sure, is he following a show now, or is it just sort of updates on movie comics?
It's movie, TV. He kind of does everything now.
If you recall, so on the spoilers page, the closer the episode was to air, the more that he had on that episode. And it would just sort of update as he went. So whatever one was 8 episodes out, he had like the log line or whatever it was, just for the quick description. And then as it moved up, there was just more and more and more and more. Till finally, by the time we saw the episode, it was not exactly a beat by beat, but it was kind of like, all right.
Oh, that's what he was talking about. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There were a few times that he got anything wrong. I mean, to the point that even during the April Fool's stuff, he was guessing stuff that eventually
actually
would
ended up,
happen.
yeah.
Tim and I were talking about that the other day because it was the anniversary of Mercy Reef being announced in November, and how the April Fool's a year before he had done Alan Miles were developing a young Aquaman series in the same spirit as Smallville, and then of course a year later we get the Mercy Reef pilot, which we need to do like a Patreon or something episode on or something on, because it's been a minute since we've talked Mercy Reef. You and I should do that, because I remember
fun.
how much we watched that pilot back in the day.
Okay, so I have sort of a half-baked theory to go along with Talisman.
Okay.
And if you want this to be the last we talk of Talisman, that's fine.
Okay.
I think that by the time Jonathan passes away in season 5,
Mhm.
we all assumed that it was just so much damage that was done as a result of him having the Kryptonian powers for just long enough to get a hold of Clark.
Because there had never been any heart issue with him before.
Right.
Before he goes after Red K. Clark.
So when did the heart issue stuff really become a thing? Because I seem to recall it was more season 4 than it was season 3.
So season 3, he does have the heart surgery around the time of Resurrect, when the whole thing was going on with Adam Knight and the bleeding from the eyes and everything. He has heart surgery then.
Right. But then he's like going to the doctor every other episode.
Season 4 is a lot of him, checking up on, I think, of Run when they're in Metropolis and meet Bart, that they're in Metropolis for a doctor's appointment. There's a few. I think in Memoria, I think that's where they said he went by himself, because obviously Schneider was prepping to direct Talisman, so he's not in Memoria. I think he said he was then. But anyway, yeah, to your point.
Do you think there was kind of a sort of meant to be sort of an unspoken life energy transference in that when he was healing Clark at the end of the episode?
Maybe the whole Jor-El thing was so vague as far as Jonathan goes. When we get to the whole Lionel Jor-El thing, it's far more. We saw Jor-El inhabit Lionel's body at one point, and we hear he almost kind of became the role of the Eradicator. In some ways, once he became Clark's kind of quote unquote protector, and his liege or whatever. But to the point that Lionel was downloaded with the Kryptonian alphabet and language, and was able to write it, obviously carving it into Lex's floor and stuff like that. So I always thought they were more tongue-in-cheek with the whole Lionel thing. The Jonathan thing was just, okay, we gave you powers, and then there's Legacy, when he can hear the key, and he's calling Clark Kal-El, and he's so frustrated, and Jor-El's been talking to him, but we never actually hear Jor-El talk to him. We only hear Jonathan talking to Jor-El. And so I could see that, though. I don't know. I don't disagree with that. Definitely.
I don't think it was just and it may all be kind of part of all of one thing. It's like, okay, I'm gonna give you all these powers to bring him back, and when you brought him back, all the powers will go away. But maybe I'll just leave this one here just in case.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Just a break in case of emergency. Clark is
because blanking.
Hidden.
No, well, in Hidden,
that's
when they
bring
bring up the idea of life or a life kind of thing. But
right, then that's the one where it was on my mind, because obviously that's where Jor-El inhabits Lionel's body. But Clark is shot there, and there's no reason to believe Jonathan could save him in that episode, like he could here.
That's like I say, it's could have been a one-time thing.
Right. And I also think maybe it had something to do with the fact it was a Kryptonian blade.
Yeah.
That did it too, that maybe that's why he was able to. But it's also like, I don't know. Like I really like that scene, and I remember John talking about how they structured it with the red blanket around him, and how Martha slips in the blood, and all that kind of little stuff that he worked out, and the way that Jonathan's kind of cradling him and standing over him. But there's also that I know he was putting pressure on the wound, but it's almost like he knew what to do at the same time, in a way, whether he knew what to do or not. It was almost like he was supposed to do what he did.
Could be.
But I could buy that, definitely, being a part of it.
Just thinking.
So who to say? And then Forsaken, which is kind of just I hate to say forgettable, because I don't mean it in that way really, but it's I forgot a lot of it after the fact.
It's like I say, it's kind of one of those things where I'm remembering it as I'm seeing it. It's like, oh, Neil Flynn did come back. I forgot about that.
I completely forgot about Neil Flynn coming back, and then they dispatch with him so quickly.
Yeah.
Once he is there. This was directed by Terrence O'Hara and written by Kelly Souders and Brian Peterson, who would later be showrunners. Aired May 12th, 2004 on the WB. Like I said, it is the penultimate ahead of Covenant, the season 3 finale. All 3 of these episodes just take place within like a 72-hour window. So that's why there is a lot of overlapping stuff here as far as Lana leaving, Pete and his parent situation, and then also the whole FBI and Lionel thing, which all kind of cross over and come to a head in a way, because the big arc of the season is Lex trying to take down Lionel, and we find out that Lionel, as you mentioned earlier, did kill his parents, and that we've been to the point that they've admitted that now. He told Chloe when Chloe had the truth serum, Kryptonian truth serum inside of her, and he admits to that before erasing her voicemail. We did have Lex getting Morgan Edge to admit to it before him going to Belle Reve and missing those 7 weeks of his life and not remembering they said it. But he's had the FBI looking into Lionel. Lionel has alternatively had the same FBI looking into Lex and Clark, but Lex's offer was greater. So by the end of this episode, they have arrested Lionel, which sets up season 4 even more so. But it's really the last kind of. I'm going to go back to something I forgot to mention in Talisman, though, talking about Lionel. And it's true for this one, too. And I almost want to do a supercut of every time. But the first time in any episode when Lionel, pick one, when Lionel is discussed, and it's usually Schneider or Jonathan discussing Lionel, they always call him Lionel Luthor. They always say, you don't want to get in bed with Lionel Luthor. You don't want to do business with Lionel. Like, and it's just Jonathan and Martha and Clark talking more often than not. It's not anybody else in the scene. We know who Lionel is at this point.
And
like
they don't mention. They don't mention another Lionel, or like 3 or 4.
No,
you talking about Lionel Jones?
Yeah, they never say Lex Luthor.
Right.
But they always, it's almost always Jonathan saying Lionel Luthor. Like he has to, like that's his name. We have to call him by his full given Christian name before moving on. Anyway, he does it again in Talisman, and he did it in something I was watching, I guess one of the previous 2 episodes, Truth or Memoria. I guess Truth, since Jonathan wasn't in it, but there's another time where it's Lionel Luthor, and I'm like, God, I feel like that happens so much. Yeah, this is the return of Emily Densmore from season 2, who was Lana's childhood best friend who died and was cloned and became Luthor Corp property. And obviously this has overreaching stuff that goes well into the end of the series, because the whole Lex clone, even the Lana clone stuff in season 6, this is all born out of this project early on.
The 21st episode of season 2 was Accelerate.
Right. And then this.
They did not. They didn't revisit that storyline at all again, did they?
Nope.
Okay.
She gets mentioned a few more times, I think.
I thought there was like an old woman that came, and it turned out to be her. But maybe I'm thinking of a different Freak of the Week. Was there another aging Freak of the Week other than the baby?
No.
Okay, never mind.
Just those two, I think. I can't remember another time. Let's see. She is mentioned again in season 4, Gone. So that's the second episode. And then in season 10, Harvest, she's mentioned. And I'm going to have to guess that has to do with Tess and the Lex clones, because I can't imagine that storyline with Clark and Lois had any kind of mention of Emily Dinsmore. So, and I know that's an episode where Tess gets into all that with the clones. So I'm going to guess that has something to do with it. But yeah, those are her only two. These are her only two appearances, or season 2 and season 3. And probably for the best, I think that she's outworn her welcome definitely by the end of this, to the point that I almost, in remembering, I'm like, was it Tina Greer or was it Emily Dinsmore? Like, which episode was? Because they get to be so similar because they're both so obsessed with Lana.
Right.
How often they overlap, kind of, and there's two Tina episodes and 2 Emily episodes, so it kind of gets confusing. The thing that's more memorable about this one to me than anything, other than where this construction of the cage came from, they just so happen to have yet another cage in the Dinsmore farm, is Pete leaving the show. This is when Sam Jones exited, and at the time I remember just being really bummed about it, because we had only gotten to the point in season 2 where Clark had let him in. Pete almost finds out, and Clark is forced to tell him, but he's come into the fold as the secret holder.
And they kind of painted him into a corner in season 3, far more than even season 2. Like, he was, as soon as he found out something in duplicity, he was already kind of put to the test.
Right.
And they had to do that so frequently that now I do like the Pete character. He's definitely kind of the comic relief of the first 3 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
But in having him and having somebody so close who has I'm not going to say a proclivity to get into trouble, because it seems like everybody in Smallville has that same affliction. But that being the case, having somebody who knows Clark's secret, it would be unimaginable to take that. Could you imagine the Pete Ross type, even if it's not Pete, but Pete Ross type, substitute whoever you want to, Aaron Ashmore or whatever, anybody who's kind of has that much more upbeat sort of personality, or sort of less fierce personality, having to hold on to that for 10 seasons? No way. No way. So,
and it was such a weird time too. We're getting into the senior year of it all with season 4. I don't know what his role could have been, because the show was getting to a point where the story was so big that it didn't really.
Right, it wasn't.
It didn't do him any favors.
No, it wasn't Scooby Gang's Solving Mysteries.
And this isn't saying anything against Sam whatsoever. This is and I maintain still, as much as I love Kristen and I do love Lana, that this is where we're really at the point of her as well. I can remember you and I thinking, well, she's gone too, maybe not in an official capacity, because God knows we were eating that stuff up left and right and knew every headline backward and forward. But, I maintain she could have left here for a year, and I think it would have done the show a favor, only because we were still very much in the trenches of this whole Clark Lana thing that we knew was never going to happen, because we know how the story ends.
And that was always sort of an understood thing, I think, too. But at the same time, if you go back through, I'm just kind of scrolling through the season 4 episodes, and other than the fact that they're at school, I don't know that very much involved Lana. It seemed like they were kind of shoehorning her in to a lot of things going forward.
Yes.
And I think that they, I don't know. It could be, it could be the case that they were trying to kind of separate her out from the core group that was there by the end of season 3. And not in a mean way, but in kind of an establishing herself sort of way. I don't know.
It, obviously we get thrust right back into it with her and Jensen Ackles in season 4 premiere and setting up, which really does set up the whole storyline with her being possessed by this witch
Toxic
ancestor.
relationship.
So yeah, so I don't know that it what could have been done differently. It would have been hard to lose both Lana and Pete in one fell swoop. I say that, and then fast forward, 3 years by this point, and we lose Lex and Lana and Lionel and Kara and the showrunners all at the same time. But this was a very transitional season because we were starting to get away from those Freak of the Week type episodes so much in season 3.
They probably had half of that in season 4.
As much as season 1 and 2 were so, heavy reliant upon it, and we were so much more into the legacy and the mythos with this one's. It would have made for a very different final year of high school to lose both his best friend and the girl that he, loves. Obviously, we get Lois, which in my opinion is the best thing that ever happened in the show. It heightens it so much and brings it onto a whole nother level. But, ultimately losing Pete, I think, I'm not going to say it hurt the show, but it definitely changed the show.
But yeah, to me, it seemed like it allowed the show to, even more than it already had by that point, sort of expand beyond sort of this sort of localized thing of a lot of stuff's happening in town. There's so much chaos happening.
This too, obviously, other than the whole Pete thing, the B plot / C plot are more important than the A. Although the Pete thing is kind of the back burner after what we find out in the last episode. They don't really go after Pete until halfway through this one. Until
not even. It's more like right at the end.
Right
last
at the
10
end.
minutes. And
then it's decided that he's leaving as a result. But I think the meat of it is the Lionel of it all, because this is the gotcha moment finally that's been building to all season, with him being arrested there in the final moments. And obviously, again, season 3 finale was one of my favorites.
I was just thinking about that.
I think it still is. Obviously, looking back, it's a little weird. We had the whole fake Kara thing.
Yeah, but the sort of Godfather ending is fantastic.
Yes. Obviously, you've got. I can't wait to talk about it next time. But Chloe and her dad in the safe house. Chloe and her dad too. Did you think it was weird that they offered to buy the Talon?
Because Gabe was unemployed. Where's he getting his money from?
The last time we talked about Gabe was like 2 episodes prior, and he's still unemployed. I'm like, I don't know where.
Looking for work.
That might be, he wanted to be a barista. That might be the last even reference of Gabe before all is said and done.
You want to stop looking for a job? Buy a business.
Yeah, absolutely.
They figured it out.
So I don't know where they were scraping together that from, but I thought that was funny. Yeah, that's pretty. I mean, I know Forsaken's kind of. It's not like Forever, which is the penultimate of season 4, where literally nothing happens in that one. That's important to the story, because there is stuff here that overlaps and has some long-standing effects, but also so many elements of this one I feel like we've been building to with the whole Pete. Because once he finds out, it's kind of like, well, what's is like you said, is that going to be a 10-season long arc for him of holding that secret?
No, but they only brought him back in season 4, right? He wasn't back in any other episode after that, was he? They mentioned him.
Season 7. Season 7 is when he comes back. The gum stretching.
That was season 7? I thought that. Okay.
Yeah. It takes a while.
All right.
And a waste of a return. There's so many, they almost hint to at the end of Forsaken when Lex does save him from the FBI agent. He's like, thanks for saving him.
You'll do the same for me.
Right. And I remember back in the day, you and I were like, oh, that's because he's going to be his vice president one day. That whole thing. I always maintained he should have come back once Martha was a senator as like her campaign manager.
That would have been great.
in her later appearances, because I think that, kind of showing what he was going to do. Because honestly, when we get to season 7 and he does return, he's as stunted there as he was here. It's almost like there's been no growth for the character whatsoever.
No, and was there even a reason he came back?
One Republic was that was he
Gotta
was
see One Republic.
yeah.
They're only going to be at Smallville once.
No, he was a roadie. He was a roadie for
That's
him, and
right.
they were playing at Smallville at the Stride Gum Factory. You know that Stride Gum Factory in
Oh,
Smallville?
the old Stride Gum Factory.
Sure, yeah, that one. It may have been Metropolis. I can't remember now, but he saves Kara from something falling on her, which she would have been fine. But Jimmy, catches him on video of his, Mr. Fantastic arms, and that becomes the jumping off point for that episode.
Kryptonite gum, boy.
Kryptonite gum, baby. Yeah, so far more interested in Talisman, I think, than I was Forsaken.
Yeah, but Forsaken had one of my, I totally forgot about this. It had one of my favorite of their early season special effects shots of right at the end where Clark is running after Emily, and he knows he can't outrun her. So
yeah.
he shoots the water tower. And now look, today, if that had been made, I'm sure it would have looked, realistic or whatever. But for that time, given those constraints and given the technology of the time, I still think that of her just being like caught in the water and backed out.
Yeah.
It was a fantastic shot.
For 21 years ago, it looks good.
Yeah.
I saw somebody making fun of it not too long ago, but even it's kind of funny because it's both water and both Emily, but the rain sequence in Accelerate when she's running around and we're in Clark time, and I think it holds up, honestly.
It absolutely does.
For the time, I think, looks very good. Now there's some of this stuff I look back on and I'm like, but honestly, there's stuff I see in, like, say, a Marvel movie now where I'm like, Smallville did that better 20 years ago than they're doing here.
Yeah, there's stuff I saw in the Flash show that I was like, come on.
Oh yeah, yeah. The especially you get to the last season of the Flash, and what was the fight with the lightning bolts, but they're lightsabers,
right?
Like that whole thing, and I was like, almost anything Smallville you could put up against this, and especially here in season 3, you're still getting. It was the most profitable show for the WB. You're still getting a lot of money, by this point. By the point when we get to season 6, they take half that money away or whatever.
Go from WB to UPN budget.
No more on location shooting for you. You get to go to a street, and you can utilize that street however you want to. We built it for you, but you're not going off that street. That movie theater is going to be right there. That newspaper caddy's going to be right there, and that bodega, and you're that's all you get. So, but it's hard not to wax poetic about these episodes from especially these first 4 seasons of the show, which were really its own. I know Tom likes to talk about the show being seasons 1 through 7 and then 8 through 10. I think you and I have always said it's really 3 eras. It's 1 through 4, it's 5, 6, and 7, and then 8, 9, and 10 are really their own thing.
Yeah, and because I feel like I think that we may have thought at the time that there was sort of a transition going on during season 4, but I almost feel like 3 and 4 were kind of the transition from let's get out of this, because they didn't totally get out of the Freak of the Week thing fully.
I mean,
because
we still had Freak of the Weeks in season 6. I mean,
but they started, by in season 4. I'm thinking particularly of Run. Bard's powers had nothing to do with.
Right.
I never even been. This is my first time in Smallville.
You get to the metahumans of it all. Yeah.
And that's what I mean, sort of by widening the world. I think I was talking about that a while back. But you just see this in season 3 and 4, just sort of a widening of the world. And
I think 5's our biggest. That's why I say 5 is the biggest jump from that, because you do get the Fortress of Solitude, you get the Phantom Zone, and you get this kind of expansion on the lore of stuff we know but haven't gotten to see at this point.
Yes, and so the end of the season 4 finale is that very kind of, as the crystal hits the screen and it goes black. That is sort of to me, and probably to you, is where it's like the line of delineation between
End of Act 1.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
here's some stuff that you probably
Yeah. Now
remember.
let's look. Yeah, I can remember the promos for season 5. Everything you've waited to see will happen, and it ends with him in the fortress and the Williams theme play, and then I look back on all of that very fondly.
Yeah, they were releasing trailers before they had finished any of the digital effects for that.
But yeah.
They made some really good trailers leading up to season 5, I recall.
Yeah. Well, those early trailers are fantastic, and then I look at like the season 7 trailer. I'm like, this is terrible.
In the season 1 stuff, you could almost hear Sarah McLachlan in the background.
Oh yeah, all that. It's the voiceovers they had from the WB guy. It was just everything about the WB era just is unmatched to me. Like I'll always pick, as much as I love season 9, as I think season 5 and 9 still tie as my favorite. But and I love obviously that we do get Clark and Lois, and we do get those him wearing the shield in some capacity, whether it's the Blur or as Superman in the end. But the nostalgia for me of those first 5 seasons and the Michigan J Frog of it all, and those kinds of promos and how they treated the show then versus how Dawn Ostroff and everybody treated it once the CW happened, and it was very much they were actively trying to kill the show in some form or fashion. I'll always look back on 1 through 5 so fondly. Not just because of how endearing the show was to me, but because how active we were too, and watching it and eating everything up and getting the podcast started and all of that. So thank you for coming. I appreciate
problem,
you
man.
always. I'm looking forward to you being more involved again this year. You're going to be doing some more stuff for us, and I know you'll come back and be on the show as well. So looking forward to that. In the meantime, if you like us, if you're listening to us, we hope you're following us on Spotify or Apple or wherever you get your podcasts, because they don't say subscribe anymore. Now they say follow. It's just like social media. So hope you're following us on your podcatcher of choice. And if it's a podcatcher like Apple or Spotify that does allow you to leave ratings and reviews, please consider doing that, because that lets more people know about us, and we really appreciate you doing that. Of course, you can follow us wherever you do your social media as well. We are at Super House of L, anywhere from Instagram to Threads to TikTok to wherever Tim has set up for us next. You can email us, mail@superhouseofl.com, and find us online always with new episodes at superhouseofl.com. Back, I think, with at least one more episode before the end of the year, hopefully 2. I got one more that I'm cooking up, so that I'm trying to make happen for you before Christmas. So we'll see if that happens or not. But season 4 starting in January. I'll have some news to share about that very soon. And then it's the year of Superman is closing. The year of Supergirl is starting. We'll have a lot to talk about with that, and production for the sequel, Man of Tomorrow, as our pre-production's already started. They start shooting soon, so we're going to be doing it all over again, baby. It's no break in sight for the House of L. So hope you're along with us for the ride. Follow us for updates on new episodes, and we will see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.